Hello everyone and welcome to the Mercer County Football Show here on WBCB1490.com alongside the Trentonians George O'Gorman. I'm Mike Samsel. Had a week off last week as, well, a lot of everything did as we were without some power here at the radio station and it kind of hindered our ability to talk about Mercer County football. But before we start to look forward to this week and start to set up some of the playoff scenarios, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about one of the bigger upsets that I've seen in a little while, George, Notre Dame knocking off Allentown.
Yeah, I guess you had to classify it as an upset. I don't know how big an upset it was. Somebody mentioned, it's tough for the pupil to beat the teacher.
Right, absolutely.
I thought that the Redbirds would have come in that game a little bit more, upbeat. Notre Dame was able to, pretty much take control of that game, and they were able to shut down Norman Williams and Nick Palladino. They were able to contain his passes. It's just another maturing process for a young Notre Dame team that now finds itself in, pretty good shape to get into the playoffs and maybe even get a home game. Ironically, who would have thought that a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, absolutely. There was some question if Notre Dame was even going to make the playoffs as recently as 2 weeks ago before that Allentown game. Now there's a chance they could actually host a playoff game. Taking a look at things in Central Jersey Group 3, Allentown still well in control of that bracket. They're number 1 in power points, and the way things are looking right now, obviously there's still one more week to play in the regular season, and we will see how things end up shaping up for that first round playoff matchup that'll be coming up next week. But it looks like Allentown will either be facing Hamilton or Hopewell Valley.
They shut out Hamilton. Mm-hmm. That Hopewell Valley game, they trailed at halftime.
That was a 16-7 game. That was a very tightly contested game.
Hopewell's a team that people are forgetting about. Hopewell could possibly, if Hopewell were to pull the upset on Saturday and knock off Nottingham, they would pick up a huge amount of playoff points and maybe even get a home game.
Yeah, absolutely. They very well could if they were able to pull off the upset against Nottingham. Nottingham right now currently sits 3rd in Central Jersey Group 3. Just about 11 power points behind Long Branch for that number 2 seed. And that number 2 seed is pretty important because if Nottingham is able to advance, they wouldn't have to hit the road in the playoffs until they were to face an Allentown team. And if Allentown got upset, Nottingham would control home field advantage throughout the Central Jersey Group 3 playoffs. So that number 2 seed is a pretty big deal for the North Stars if they are able to get it. Taking a look at things in Central Jersey Group 4, West Windsor Plainsboro South currently sits 2nd, about 18 power points behind Sayreville. Maybe a bit tough for West Windsor Plainsboro South to catch Sayreville, but they're still pretty well in control of that number 2 seed. So it looks like West Windsor Plainsboro South will be hosting at least a couple of playoff games.
And even if they were to go against Sayreville, that would be a neutral site, probably Rutgers University.
Right.
So there's no sense for Todd Smith's team to even think about, Sayreville. I mean, put that on the back burner.
Right.
Because you really don't have to worry about them. You got to worry about some of the other teams that are in contention there. And Central Jersey Group 4 is always a very tough bracket. They're not going to pick up many power points this week. Friday night they have a game with their rival, West Windsor North, which doesn't have any wins. And they're going to be in, I would think that Todd Smith's team is probably not going to try to embarrass their rival and pour it on.
Right.
I think they're just going to get the game under control, hopefully. I would think that's what their game plan would be. Mm-hmm. Get the game under control and then, maybe rely on some of their young running backs and not have to risk another possible injury to Brian Schoenauer.
Right.
This is weird because it's just, all of a sudden it seemed like the season ended, and now you're coming back. I could see at times where we have like a break in the season.
Right.
But here we are, it's like we're starting all over again.
Yeah,
but there's some good football left to be played.
Yeah, absolutely. Also in Central Jersey Group 4, Steinert is currently 5th in power points, despite the fact of them being tied with Colts Neck. They both have 104. I would be lying to you if I told you I knew what the tiebreaker was, but apparently whatever it is, Colts Neck holds it. So Steinert has a big game this week against Rancocas Valley, try and get a little separation and maybe host a first-round playoff game. Hightstown has no choice but to win this coming week against Allentown to even have a shot, and even maybe that would put them still a little bit too far behind the 8 ball. It looks like the 8 teams getting in Central Jersey Group 4 are pretty well set. In non-public Group 4, that's where things become interesting. There's a big old cluster of teams between about 147 and 106 power points. That's where Notre Dame sits currently right now. They are at 7th with 106 power points. But there are a lot of tight matchups this week in that non-public Group 4. And the way, depending on how things could shake out, Notre Dame could be looking at a trip to Don Bosco, to Bergen Catholic, or they could be even hosting a first-round playoff game. So this is a big week in non-public Group 4. Notre Dame cannot afford to look past Trenton.
Well, and I don't think they will, because I think, that rivalry is still there between Trenton. They'll pick up some points, even though Trenton doesn't, has, 2 wins?
Yes.
They'll pick up some points from Trenton, because Trenton is a Group 5.
Right.
So they'll pick up a couple of additional power points there.
Only Group 5 in our school in our area, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. They are the only Group 5s. Well, they're the biggest school, too.
Right.
But, the chances are, if the Irish are thinking about, rolling over Trenton and just, breezing through, they may have another thought coming, because I remember a few years back when Trenton came in there as a heavy, heavy underdog and took Notre Dame to a couple overtimes.
Right.
Before losing that game. So, remember, Trenton still has the weapons. They still got a huge line, probably one of the biggest offensive and defensive lines in Mercer County. And they've still got the receivers, and they've got, Tremaine Nieves had a big day against Princeton last week, scored all 20 points. And they still got Ryan Morton. So they got 2 running backs. I might venture to say that Trenton's run game, if it can open the holes, and they got the big linemen that can do it, is probably better than Notre Dame's run game right now.
Yeah, it certainly has the potential to be. I guess based on just strictly raw talent, I think I would have to give the edge to Trenton as well, taking nothing away from the incredibly talented sophomore over there at Notre Dame, Lorenzo Bryant or Nico Safari.
Well, I think
Ryan Wharton and Tremaine Nieves are just a good tandem to have.
And even if you say that they're evenly balanced, I think the advantage would have to go to the Irish and their quarterback Rob McCoven.
Right, absolutely.
Who's over Jaleel Thorpe, he's really, he has the advantage there.
Right, yeah.
And he's got the receivers. Now, that's a good matchup even with receivers.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you got Devin Griffiths and which would kind of neutralize, Hakeem.
Hakeem Horton and Zaire Clemens, yeah.
Zaire Clemens, I mean, he's been almost like a forgotten man.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, with that talent and what he showed us last year, and he's only gotten faster, they just haven't even used him.
Well, what's interesting with that Notre Dame team is you take a look at Devin Griffiths, and Devin Griffiths has been one of the most interesting players to watch to me, because sometimes he'll let that ball that hits him right in between the 1 and the 8 fall through his hands, but he could be in triple coverage and he'll elevate up over everyone and pull in a spectacular touchdown reception. He's turned into a big play guy this year.
This is an interesting matchup. It's a good matchup because you never know. I know that I would say that Trenton High is going to come in here to Notre Dame on Friday night, knowing that they can pull off the upset and that they have the potential to do that.
Right.
It's just you're going to wonder what frame of mind Notre Dame's going to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget, portions of today's show, are being brought to you by Haldeman Ford Subaru Route 33 in Hamilton Township, and also St. Francis Medical Center, the heart hospital in the city of Trenton. George and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll come on back, take a look at the games this week in Mercer County, coming up on the Mercer County Football Show.
The Trentonian presents Philadelphia Eagles Football Frenzy. You could win the grand prize to see the Eagles play Dallas in Dallas on December 2nd. Get your copy of the Daily Trentonian to register. Enter between now and September 30th for your chance to win. Every Sunday, the Trentonian is giving out a $100 gift card, a 2-night hotel package for 2 with your choice of a regular season Eagles game, and on October 7th, the grand prize will be announced. A flyaway package to Dallas to see the Eagles take on the Cowboys December 2nd with 2-night hotel accommodations. For entry rules, check the Daily Trentonian and enter as often as you like in the Trentonian or online at Trentonian.com. It's the Philadelphia Football Frenzy from the Trentonian, the only local paper serving both Bucks and Mercer counties.
I'm Jerry Jablonowski, President and Chief Executive Officer of St. Francis Medical Center. For over 137 years, St. Francis has remained committed to the people of Trenton, living out our mission to be a transforming, healing presence in the communities we serve by delivering top-quality health care to all in a personal and compassionate manner. we have continually expanded our services to meet the changing healthcare needs of our city. Despite the hospital changes taking place in Trenton, St. Francis will continue to be here, providing all the residents of Trenton with access to top-quality health care, both at our hospital and within your communities where you live and work. Our renowned services in cardiac care, cancer treatment, and stroke care, in addition to our newly designed comprehensive care of chronic diseases, will continue to provide Trenton with the best in healthcare services. Our emergency room is always open for your immediate needs in times of medical crisis. St. Francis Medical Center will be here so you'll be well.
Alongside the Trentonian George O'Gorman, I'm Mike Samsel, back here on the Mercer County Football Show on WBCB1490.com, presented by St. Francis Medical Center, the Heart Hospital in the city of Trenton, and also Haldeman Ford Subaru Route 33 in Hamilton Township. George, you mentioned kind of a funky way things have gone down with the hurricane and how it seemed like not just football, but pretty much everything in the state of Jersey kind of came to a halt last week as everyone was recovering. If you're just getting your power back or still haven't gotten your power back, our thoughts and prayers are with you. We hope you're warm out there. We hope you're staying safe, and we hope we can provide at least somewhat of a distraction away from what Hurricane Sandy has done. Again, we hope everything is well out there with everyone, not just in Mercer County, but in the state of New Jersey. And if we can provide at least some sort of distraction and you can sit back and enjoy some high school football, then that's we've done our job, I would say.
Yep. You know, there were a couple of games played last week on this side of the river. I know there was almost a full slate in Bucks County.
Yeah.
But Burlington Township, congratulations to Tom Madera's Falcons. They wrapped up their division championship in the West Jersey Football League with a convincing win over Northern Burlington. And in a battle of 0-7 teams, Palmyra blew out Riverside, and Ty Belford's club with his son, I guess he spelled it, Ty's father spelled it with T-Y, and I think the son is T-A-I. But at any rate, he had a couple touchdowns, so there was a little bit of action down there in South Jersey. We were wiped out here in Mercer County. And, interesting games going on this weekend. And, by the way, I just want to mention one thing. We really we haven't talked about the prep school ranks.
Right.
But Tom Malfaletta was telling me that there's a couple big matchups coming up this week. You've got the three teams in the Mid-Atlantic Prep League, the Maple League, Lawrenceville, Hunn, and Petty, all go into this final weekend of the regular season with a possibility of winning the championship.
Yeah.
I mean, if Lawrenceville can defeat Hill in one of the oldest rivalries in the country on Saturday, I think, up at Pottstown, they would win the championship for first-year coach O'Day. Frank DeLaurentis' Petty Falcons last weekend rallied late, and I think on the final play of the game, and knocked off Hunn. And Hunn still has a chance to possibly win or at least tie for the Maple Championship. That's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it certainly is. A lot of contention going on there in the prep school ranks. In Mercer County, in the West Jersey Football League, Robbinsville will be in action. Holy Cross will be making the trip up 130 into Robbinsville to take on the Robbinsville Ravens. That should be an interesting matchup with an edge toward Holy Cross.
Give Holy Cross an edge. They played well a couple of weeks ago, and they kind of, pressured Allentown when Allentown, prior to their loss to Notre Dame. Holy Cross better not come up here thinking, wow, this is an easy Mercer County win for us.
Right.
That's not necessarily the case because Robbinsville, Jordan Gray's team, they can move the ball.
Yeah, they absolutely can.
And they've shown, maybe they haven't been consistent, but they've done some very good things. And Robbinsville, I think, still has a shot to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I believe they're still in contention in Group 1.
And they would pick up a huge amount of power points if they can come out with a win over Holy Cross.
Yeah.
The other games, Ewing at Delrain, that's Delrain's still unbeaten, I believe. That Drew Bessler's club is really, I guess this is the final game for the season for
I believe
for
so
Ewing.
for Ewing, yeah.
Final regular season game. I mean, it's really Ewing has shown some brief glimpses of being a contending team, but haven't been able to put it together consistently.
Yeah, the next game we will have, it will be the lone game in Jersey we will have for you on the WBCB Sports Network this weekend. You can head to our website, WBCB1490.com, or follow us on Twitter, twitter.com @WBCB Sports for an updated playoff schedule. But the lone game we will have broadcast for you in the state of New Jersey will be the matchup in Burlington County. As we head into Burlington County for one of the few times of the season, Burlington City will be taking on the Florence Flashes. Joe Frappoli's squad certainly looking good. They're sitting number 2 seed right now in Central Jersey Group 1, and we talked about it before. It's almost become redundant at this point, but Joe Frappoli keeps things rolling with the Flashes.
Oh, they've been doing that for years. And this game, probably the most one-sided game on the schedule. Florence, I can't see Burlington Township or Burlington City staying anywhere within 3 touchdowns of Florence. And Burlington City is really struggling this year, and I can't see them staying close at all. Probably, like I said, the most one-sided game on the schedule.
West Windsor Plainsboro North will be in action. They will be taking on West Windsor Plainsboro South. Now, we know how good West Windsor Plainsboro South is. We know Chris Casamento's Knights haven't quite had the season that they were looking for, but these are 2 rivals, and, sometimes kids tend to find that extra gear when you get into a game like this.
This is probably the second most one-sided game on the schedule. South will definitely be focused, not having played last week. They want to be in the, they want to get their football legs back. We're talking about teams not playing last week, but how about the schools that were closed, and a lot of them in the Delaware Valley area were. They didn't even get a chance to practice.
Right.
And some of these schools didn't reopen again until, I think, Tuesday. So now you're talking about the possibility, I think, like of a West Windsor South and a West Windsor North who are playing Friday night. They would only have 3 days of practice.
Right.
But South just has too many weapons, and you got to think that Todd Smith will have his kids focused. And even if they were playing a rival that they weren't that familiar with, theirs might be a slim chance they could possibly be upset.
Right.
But believe me, they know everything about West Windsor North. And they know that the key is to stop Tyrone Parker. And I got a feeling that that defense that South has, and they're overlooked a lot, really, I think that they're going to be able to do that and shut down Tyrone Parker, who has probably been one of the more consistent backs in Mercer County.
Right.
We saw him a couple of weeks ago against Hamilton North, Hamilton West, and he played well.
Yeah.
He got some tough yards, and he's a good back, and he's probably one of the top 5 backs, I would say, in Mercer County this year.
Yeah, definitely. Taking a look at some of the other games, we have Trenton and Notre Dame. We kind of gave an extensive preview of that game a little bit earlier on in the show. Rancocas Valley will be in action, taking on the Steinert Spartans. It's a big one for Steinert. If they want to host a playoff game, they need to win. No other way to put it.
Steinert, not only were they off last week, they had their bye the week before that.
Right.
So this will be their first game in 3 weeks.
Which is tough, because that's a team that is just starting to find their stride.
And it's going to be tough for the Spartans, because Rancocas Valley is not that bad of a team. They've got some weapons. And, they handled Trenton convincingly before they had to post, the bye last week.
Right.
And we remember what Trenton and Steinert did.
Yeah.
Went to double overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So Steinert's really got to be focused, because right now Steinert's in a position that they should get into the playoffs. RV is going to be, they can pick up some big power points with a win over RV. They would go into the playoffs next week and then have to come back the following Thursday and play Hamilton, their big rival.
Right.
So, this is a huge test for Dan Caruso's club.
Yeah, it certainly is, and we'll keep an eye on that game for you as well. Willingboro will be in action against Lawrence. Lawrence, another team in playoff contention, and they're actually looking pretty good to get in Central Jersey Group 3, if I'm not mistaken. They're sitting pretty well. No, they are just outside of the playoffs. In fact, my apologies on that one. They sit currently at 63 power points, and Hopewell Valley holds the last seed at 73. So if Lawrence wants to get in, beating Willingboro would have to be where they start.
Yeah, they have to obviously beat the Chimeras this weekend, and Willingboro, again, has been an up-and-down team. Willingboro had Northern Burlington beat a couple of weeks ago until the final play of the game, and Northern Burlington pulled that one out, and then Northern Burlington beat Lawrence. Right after that, and then Northern Burlington last week got blown out by Burlington Township. So on comparative scores, you would say that the Cardinals are the underdog, but I got a lot of faith in Rob Radiss's team, and with Samai Mitchell running the ball and Nick Falkenberg throwing the ball.
Yeah.
I gotta like the Cardinals. That's a noon game, I believe, on Saturday morning over at the Cardinals field, and I got a feeling that Rob Radiss and Anthony Amorata and his defense, they'll be focused and really, I got to wonder how hungry Willingboro is for that win.
Right.
So I would definitely like to see the Cardinals pull that one out, and I think they have the potential to do it.
Nottingham North Stars will be in action in maybe one of the games of the week, I would say.
I think it's the game of the week.
Yeah, and Hopewell Valley.
I think there's no question it's the game of the week. Hopewell Valley, not a bad ball club.
No, they're not.
I mean,
Alec Hasse, I like him. We were
wonder,
just talking before the show, and it's a blue-collar team. There's not one stud on that team or anything of that nature. That's just a team of kids that work really, really hard.
Austin Fellows is really an underrated quarterback.
It really is, yeah.
And they've got some good running backs. And, I look back on it now, and I don't think I've ever, after what Hopewell Valley has done this year, their loss at home under those portable lights, which are atrocious, and hopefully they'll get the new lights, installed by next year.
Right.
Because they opened up their new field 2 weeks ago when they played. But really, I don't know how they lost to Hightstown.
Yeah.
Hightstown is really a strange team to pick.
I was going to say, they're probably
they're
the
not a bad
toughest
ball
luck
club.
team, yeah.
They are a hard luck team because they've got some good defensive people like Jude Brenya and Joe DeCristofaro. They've got some excellent receivers like Max Cutler. They just haven't.
You think back to week 1, they hung with Nottingham, 13-0. That Notre Dame game was very tough. The Steiner game, which was an absolute shootout.
Yep.
You put those 3 games the other way around, all of a sudden you're looking at a team that's 5-3 and pretty well in control of their playoff contention.
Well, it's
even 2 of them, and they're close.
There's still a lot of football left to be played for that Hightstown ball club, and
right.
Who knows? If Allentown's looking past them, believe me, Hightstown's going to come into this game. Really, they're neighboring schools.
Oh yeah.
Right, not far down Route 130. Hightstown, I know Pete Bresch is going to have his kids pumped up to go into Allentown and knock off the Redbirds, and I would not be surprised if Hightstown can stay close and maybe pull it out, but I just don't think it'll happen.
All right, so that'll wrap it up for our preview section of the show. Now let's move on to what has become one of my favorite segments here on the Mercer County Football Show, and that is Ask Oj. Oj, if we stay where we're at right now with the playoff standings, what is the playoff matchup that you were looking forward to most in the first round?
It would probably have to be one of those CVC matchups.
Yeah, Allentown, Hopewell Valley.
Allentown.
Yeah.
Allentown, Hopewell, Hamilton, Allentown.
We could conceivably see Hamilton Nottingham again as well.
I thought of Hamilton possibly getting into a 4th seed,
right,
and not having to play Nottingham till the second round.
Right.
It's really hard to pinpoint what's going to happen because remember some of these other schools that we're not following that closely that are also in contention can pick up points.
Aren't that far behind,
and you get a lot of those residual points too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the potential of some very interesting matchups. And of course, I'm not even speculating on what might happen, say with a West Windsor South if they were to go against one of those teams out of Middlesex County.
Right. Yeah.
But I would think it would with the potential of getting 4 teams, maybe 5. Out of the 8 in Central Jersey 3, any matchup there pitting Mercer County schools would be a very attractive one.
Yeah, that would certainly be some fun matchups to watch, and that'll just about do it.
Well, I wanted to mention one thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's been a couple of weeks now since we've been on, and I just wanted to, in passing, Mercer County lost one of its biggest football supporters 2 weeks ago with the passing of Tony Persicilli, who was a longtime friend of mine. Covered his games at Trenton High back in the early 70s when he helped anchor the line for an undefeated Trenton High football team. Tony passed away 2 weeks ago, or actually a week ago, just prior to the hurricane. They supposed to have a memorial service. It was postponed last Monday. It was held yesterday And Tony was really a staunch supporter of not only Trenton High football, but Mercer County football. And he was the guy who created the Fuzzy Falzone Lineman of the Year Award that honors the memory of one of his teammates, Charles Fuzzy Falzone, who played on that undefeated Trenton team along with Bobby Bernetti, and their quarterback, Skip Scott, who we mentioned previously about a month ago,
right,
who also had passed away. But we're going to miss Tony Persicelli in Mercer County football. Great guy, and his memory will certainly live on forever.
Absolutely, and we also did want to mention that we'd also lost one of our own at WBCB last week. George, a gentleman that you and I had the opportunity to work with a lot back here in our BCB studios, Bill Melody, passed away last week. So, again, a bit of a hard week in Mercer County football, losing one of our own here at WBCB and Bill Melody, and also the memory of Tony Persicelli as well. So our deepest condolences go out to the friends and family of both of those gentlemen, and that is how we will bring things to an end here on the Mercer County Football Show, being brought to you by St. Francis Medical Center, the Heart Hospital in the city of Trenton, and Haldeman Ford Subaru, Route 33 in Hamilton Township. Don't forget, George and I will be back next Wednesday for the Mercer County Football Show, and also for schedule information on our broadcast schedule for the playoffs here in Pennsylvania, as well as over in Mercer County. Check out our website, WBCB1490.com. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day, everyone.